The room was cold and silent, lit by white beams that hummed faintly. In the center sat the human. His hands were calm, his face showed no fear. 2 armed guards flanked the walls. Behind him, an alien officer gave a nod and the telepath stepped forward. She looked young, but her glowing violet skin and silver white hair marked her as one of the strongest mental readers in the galaxy. She was called Celine. She had pulled secrets from warlords, traitors, and assassins. No mind had ever resisted her. Her people called her the Mind Weaver. Now she stood behind a human no one could break. His name was Calder, a former engineer, a prisoner of war, a mystery. Celine closed her eyes and placed her hands on his head. The guards held their breath. Her fingers glowed. A pulse of violet light spread out like waves. Her lips moved without sound. The human didn't even blink. He stared forward as if bored. The alien officers expected him to scream or twitch or at least show discomfort. But Celine's eyes suddenly opened wide. Her mouth trembled. Her body stiffened. She gasped. She saw chaos, a mind like a labyrinth, sharp and wild. She saw pain, but not his own. She saw weapons built in secret, battles fought in silence, and a network of humans preparing something. Then something stared back at her from deep inside his memory. Not a person, not a machine. Something older. Then her nose started bleeding. She tried to pull away, but her hands wouldn't move. Her body was frozen. Calder's mind wasn't being read. It was watching her, testing her. Her legs shook. She finally screamed and fell backward. The guards rushed forward. Celine collapsed. Blood trickled from both nostrils. Her eyes fluttered and she passed out. Calder turned his head slowly and looked at the officer in the corner. "Is that all?" he asked calmly. The officer didn't answer. He was frozen too, shocked. For centuries the telepaths had ruled interrogations, but this human had done nothing and still broken their best weapon. Medics ran in. Celine was alive but unconscious. The head medic whispered something to the officer and the officer turned pale. "Her brain is unstable," the medic said, like it clashed with something stronger than her own mind. "She's not responding to healing fields." The room remained silent. Calder leaned back in his chair. He looked almost amused. The officer walked up and stared at him. "What did you do to her?" Calder looked up slowly. "Nothing," he said. "She reached into my mind. She should have knocked first." The guards tightened their grips on their weapons, but no one moved. They were afraid, not of what Calder had done, but of what he might still be hiding. "Transfer him to isolation," the officer ordered. "No need," Calder replied. "I'll go." He stood up, calm and slow. The guards flinched. He didn't even glance at them. The air around him felt heavy now, not because of tech or armor or weapons, but because something ancient had stirred the moment the telepath entered his mind. As he walked past Celine's unconscious form, he paused for just a second. Then he said something in a whisper no one understood, but the heart monitors nearby beeped faster for a moment, as if something in her still heard him. And then he walked out alone, with every officer and soldier watching him like he was a black hole wrapped in flesh. They had captured a human, but something else had come with him. Calder sat quietly in the isolation chamber. It was made to hold war criminals, assassins, and rogue AIs. The walls were lined with dampeners meant to block psychic energy, disrupt emotions, and shut down advanced thought. Still he sat there peacefully, back straight, eyes half closed like he was meditating. Outside the glass wall, more officers gathered. They weren't just military, they were scientists, advisors, and even a royal observer. No one had ever seen a telepath collapse like that, especially not one like Celine. The silence among the aliens wasn't from doubt. It was fear. Inside the medical chamber down the hall, Celine still hadn't woken up. Her vitals were stable, but her brainwaves were strange. The neural scans looked like a storm trapped inside a box. Lights flickered. Her breathing was shallow, but every now and then she whispered one word in her sleep. One name, Calder. Commander Varel, the one in charge of the station, paced in front of the observation deck. She had read Calder's file 5 times. He wasn't a spy. He wasn't a soldier. He had been found drifting in a wrecked ship near the neutral border, wearing an old Earth engineering badge and no visible weapons. But now they knew that badge was just a cover. Varel turned to the others. "We need to know what he is." "He's human," one of the scientists said. "He's something more," another corrected. "Something we've never seen before." The telepath said his mind pushed her out without even trying. What if it didn't push her out, Varel said, but pulled her in? Everyone went silent. Back in the chamber, Calder opened his eyes. He could feel the pressure on the other side of the glass. Dozens of minds pushing, watching, trying to analyze him. He felt it the way a man feels rain on his skin. It didn't matter how many sensors they used. They wouldn't find anything. He stood and walked to the glass. He didn't look at them. He looked at the camera. "I know you're listening," he said calmly. Varel stepped closer to the speaker. "You're afraid of what happened," Calder said. "You should be. Not because I'm dangerous, but because something else is." "Then tell us," Varel said through the intercom. "I already did," Calder replied. "Your telepath just didn't survive long enough to understand." Varel narrowed her eyes. "What did she see?" Calder tilted his head. "Something older than your empire. Something you buried. Something that remembers you." One of the scientists leaned closer to the screen. "Is he talking about the old signals?" Varel shook her head. "That's a myth. Lost data from before the empire." Calder smiled faintly. "You should have left it lost." Before they could ask more, an alarm began to ring. A second telepath placed on standby had just tried a silent scan from another wing. She had collapsed instantly. Her mind shut down like a power grid blown apart. Her scream echoed over the comms. She was still alive but deeply shaken. She said it was like staring into a mirror that hated her, a medic reported. Calder sighed softly and returned to his seat. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he said. "But if you keep sending minds into mine, they won't come back the same." Varel stepped away from the window. "Shut down all scans. No more telepaths, no more tricks. I want a meeting with him. Face to face." "You're risking too much," one advisor warned. "I need to understand," she said. "Because if he's telling the truth, then we're not just dealing with a human. We're dealing with something the humans woke up." The officers whispered among themselves. Calder closed his eyes again, but in his mind something moved. Something dark and aware. Not angry, not kind. Just awake. The door to the isolation chamber opened with a slow hiss. Commander Varel stepped inside alone. She wore no armor, no weapons, just her officer's uniform and a sharp stare. The guards outside locked the door behind her. She wasn't sure if they were protecting her from Calder, or Calder from what might come if he was provoked. Calder didn't move. He was seated again, hands on his knees, as if waiting for her. The silence between them was heavy. "You requested a meeting," Calder said. "I don't take orders from prisoners," Varel replied. "Yet here you are." She narrowed her eyes. "You've already done enough damage. Silene is still unconscious. The second telepath will need full mental reconstruction." "I warned you," he said. "You didn't answer the question," she replied. "What is inside your mind?" Calder leaned back in the chair. "That depends. Are you asking what you saw or what you disturbed?" "I'm asking what's hiding inside you," he smiled faintly. "Nothing is hiding. It's just not interested in you." Varel frowned. "Then why attack our telepaths?" "It didn't attack them," Calder said. "They intruded. They were like small lights flying into a storm." "You talk like it's a separate being," she said. "Is it an entity?" "It's a memory," Calder replied. "One buried deep inside my people long ago. Most don't even know it's there, but when a mind like Silene's touches it, it wakes up. It's ancient, cold, patient." Varel crossed her arms. "Is it a weapon?" "It doesn't need to be. It's knowledge. Pure and heavy. Enough to drown most minds that touch it. That's why you're calm," she said. "You've made peace with it." Calder nodded once. "It accepted me." Her jaw clenched. "Then you're not just human." "I never said I was ordinary." The lights in the room flickered for a moment. A hum filled the air. Varel's hand twitched, almost reaching for a communicator, but she stopped herself. Calder was still sitting still, but she felt the pressure again, the invisible weight like gravity in the wrong direction. "We picked up signals 2 weeks ago," she said. "Patterns near the edge of your star systems. We thought they were human tests." "They weren't," Calder replied. "They were echoes." "Of what?" "Of what's waking." Varel took a breath. "So this thing, it's not just in your mind. It's everywhere minds are quiet enough to hear it. Your people talk too much to notice. Ours did too. Until we stopped listening to ourselves and started listening to what was buried." Varel stepped forward. "Are there more like you?" Calder looked her in the eye. "Not yet." She felt a chill in her bones. The air grew still. The walls built to suppress psychic activity began to hum again. "You're afraid now," Calder said. "Not because of me, but because something inside you recognizes it too. Deep down." She didn't answer, but her breathing had changed. He stood slowly. "You didn't come here to understand me. You came here hoping I would explain something you've already started to suspect." She didn't deny it. "I'm not your enemy, Commander," he said. "Then what are you?" Calder walked past her to the far wall and placed a hand against it. The light dimmed around his fingers. "I'm the reminder of what your people chose to forget, and what's coming doesn't care about your fleets, your laws, or your pride. You're talking in riddles," he turned back to her, "because straight answers would break your mind too." Varel's voice was softer now. "Then help us." For the first time, Calder hesitated. Then he nodded. "But not here," he said. "I need a map. A real one. One that shows what's buried beneath your oldest worlds and why. Because I'm not the one being hunted." Varel walked briskly through the command deck, eyes locked on the digital map slowly building on the central hollow table. Behind her, Calder walked silently, flanked by 2 armed guards. No one dared speak. Officers whispered as he passed, unsure if they should salute or draw weapons. The map wasn't just a chart of systems. It was a record of forgotten sites, old ruins, lost outposts, and strange energy signatures buried beneath the surface of uninhabited planets. Most of it was ignored by the Empire for centuries. Until now. Calder stopped in front of the map. He stared at it for a long time without speaking. Then he pointed to a red-marked system on the edge of the void belt. "There," he said. "That's where the echo came from." Varel looked closer. "That's a dead world, no cities, no atmosphere." "It wasn't dead once," Calder said. "It was silenced." She raised a brow. "By your people?" "No," he replied. "By yours." The room went still. Varel crossed her arms. "We've only been at war for 30 years. This predates even our first contact." "That's what I've been trying to tell you," Calder said. "This isn't about our war. It's about what was left behind. Whatever lived there before your empire grew too curious. You uncovered something and sealed it. But sealing it didn't mean it stayed gone." A young science officer leaned forward. "We've recorded unusual gravitational distortions in that system." "Thought it was just leftover tech debris." Calder nodded. "It's not debris. It's memory. And now it's stirring." Varel stepped closer. "And you think we triggered it?" "No," Calder said. "Your telepath did. The moment she reached into my mind and touched the memory, she lit a signal. Not for me, for it." "You mean," Varel said slowly, "it knows where you are now?" "It does," Calder said. "And it's coming." The science officer's hand trembled slightly as he tapped the console. "Ma'am, long-range sensors just picked up a massive energy signature entering from the edge of that system." Varel's voice sharpened. "Is it a ship?" "No identifiable structure. Just mass and energy, like a cloud of black radiation. But moving with direction fast. Toward us?" The officer nodded. "Straight toward this sector." Varel turned back to Calder. "You said it's not a weapon. But this looks like one." "It's not here to destroy," Calder said. "It's here to reclaim." "Reclaim what?" Calder looked directly into her eyes. "Me." For a moment, no one spoke. The medical officer burst into the room. "Commander." Silene just woke up. Everyone turned. "She's weak," the medic said, "but she keeps repeating the same word over and over." "What word?" Varel asked. The medic hesitated. "Home." Calder looked away. "She's not talking about your station," he said. "She touched a memory that didn't belong to either of us. Now part of it is in her too. She's been marked." Varel clenched her jaw. "If it's coming for you, how do we stop it?" Calder didn't answer immediately. He walked slowly around the map and tapped 3 points, each a world long forgotten by the Empire. "You can't stop it with guns. Or fleets. You stop it by remembering why your ancestors buried it in the first place." "And how do we do that?" she asked. "You take me to these worlds. Each one holds a key. Together they'll show the shape of what's coming." Varel stared at the map. "Then we go." Behind them, the hollow screen flickered as the distant mass of energy crept closer. Silent, invisible and unstoppable. And in the medical bay, Silene sat up, her eyes glowing faintly with the same light that once pulsed from Calder's mind. She didn't scream. She whispered again. "Home." The ship left the Empire station with only a small crew. Commander Virel stood on the bridge with Calder at her side. The room was filled with tension. No one liked having him on board. But after the energy surge from the outer system, no one argued either. The officers who had once mocked humans now avoided his gaze. Silene was also aboard. Her body was healed, but her mind was not the same. She sat in the med bay, quietly drawing strange symbols with her fingers in the air. The doctors scanned her brain patterns and saw new connections forming. Pathways not normally seen in her species. She didn't talk much, but when she did, her voice was softer, almost like she was hearing something the others couldn't. Their destination was a dark moon orbiting a forgotten gas giant, far beyond known trade routes. According to old records, the Empire had sent researchers there 2 centuries ago. None returned. It was marked classified and sealed off. No one had visited since. When the ship arrived in orbit, sensors failed instantly. Light seemed to bend wrong around the surface. The sky itself looked like a mirror cracked from the inside. "This place feels wrong," Virel said quietly. Calder nodded. "Because it remembers you." The landing craft descended with Virel, Calder, 2 guards, and a data technician. As soon as they stepped onto the surface, they felt it. A weight in the air. Not physical, but emotional, like a place where a great lie had once been told. The ground was smooth and black like cooled glass. Strange marks were carved into it, circles within circles with jagged lines connecting them. Calder knelt down and touched the stone. It pulsed faintly under his hand. "It's a lock," he said. "This whole site," Virel looked around. "A lock for what?" "For memory." He pointed toward a low dome half buried in the sand. They entered through a rusted breach. Inside, the walls were covered with carvings. Images of beings with long limbs and smooth, featureless faces, holding spheres of light in their hands. Below them, carvings of war, explosions, a rift in the sky. Then silence. "What is this place?" Virel asked. Calder traced one carving with his finger. "Your ancestors didn't destroy what they found. They feared it, so they built around it, covered it, hoped time would forget." He placed his palm on the central panel. Light spread out in rings. The floor trembled. A hidden panel opened. Inside was a narrow pillar of crystal floating in midair. Within the crystal, a single black orb spun slowly, humming with quiet power. The data technician gasped. "This isn't Imperial technology. It's older," Calder said. "Older than both our species. It's part of what was left behind." Virel stepped forward. "Can we touch it?" "You can," Calder said. "But you won't want to." She hesitated, then reached out. But before her fingers made contact, the orb flared with a sudden light, and in her mind she saw it. Not a weapon. Not a monster. A memory, a voice. A code etched into reality itself. A civilization so old it didn't speak in words, but in pulses of gravity and emotion. And in that moment, Virel understood. Her ancestors hadn't just buried the past. They had lied about it. She stumbled back, breathing heavily. "You saw it," Calder said. She nodded, barely able to speak. "It's not just power. It's thought. Pure thought. And now it's awake." Calder turned to the group. "There are 2 more sites. Each one holds a piece of what's coming. If we don't reach them in time, that thing moving toward us will finish what your ancestors started. And this time, it won't stop." Virel looked at the glowing orb one last time. "Then we move," she said. The ship raced toward the second world, an abandoned jungle planet called Threxil. Once used as a research colony, it had been wiped from records after a sudden planetary silence 80 years ago. No bodies were recovered. No signals ever came back. Only rumors of a psychic plague that made people disappear into the trees. Silene sat alone in the observation room, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The faint hum in her ears had grown louder. It wasn't a sound exactly, it was a pressure. Like something behind her thoughts was trying to surface. Since the first memory site, she no longer needed to try reading minds. Thoughts just slipped into her like echoes in a cave. She closed her eyes and saw vines, roots wrapped around metal, screams without voices, and in the center the same black orb but larger now. Spinning faster, waiting, Virel entered quietly. "We're an hour from the surface." "You said you wanted to speak." Silene turned slowly. Her eyes glowed faintly again, but she looked afraid. "It's not just memory," she whispered. "It's growing." "What is?" Silene raised a trembling hand to her own head. "The thing Calder carries. It was small when I first touched it. like a shadow, but now it's feeding off us, off everything. Varel sat beside her. Then why hasn't it taken him over? Silene's voice was barely audible. Because it trusts him. It thinks he's the same. Down in the cargo bay, Calder stood near the loading ramp, already suited for the jungle below. Thick fog covered the planet's surface. Old beacons blinked weakly. The ground was choked with twisted trees and moss-covered ruins. The ship didn't dare land. The jungle moved on its own, vines shifting like they breathed. Calder leapt first. The moment his boots touched the ground, the vines pulled away. Not in fear, but in recognition. The others rappelled down, landing beside him. Varel, Silene, and 2 guards followed close as Calder led them through a path that shouldn't have existed. Trees bent aside. Roots uncoiled. Nature reacted like it remembered him. They reached a ruined tower overgrown with green fire moss. Inside, the structure still pulsed with energy. Stone walls hummed with soundless signals. Calder reached out and placed his palm on a metal disc embedded in the center of the floor. The room rumbled. A new image flickered on the wall, one not carved but projected. It showed the galaxy thousands of years ago. A web of minds connected by thought, not language. A great peace, then betrayal. A decision made by an empire that no longer exists. They feared the mind link. They feared what the connection revealed, so they severed it, cut it off, left the old minds to starve. They thought they could bury consciousness, Calder said quietly. But thought can't be killed. It just waits. Varel stepped forward. Why would your people store this? Why keep it? Because some of us believed it wasn't evil, Calder said. Just angry, hurt, forgotten. It wasn't made to harm, it was made to connect. Silene walked slowly to the center. Her voice trembled. Then why is it chasing us? Because it thinks we're ready again, Calder said. Or it's testing if we are. Silene reached out and touched the disc beside Calder's hand, and the room lit up. The projection flared. For a moment, everyone could feel it. Each other's thoughts, memories, feelings, pain, hope, loss. The mind of every person in the room was linked only for seconds, but it felt like hours. Then the light faded. The guards fell back, stunned. One of them cried quietly. Another looked at Varel like he had known her since birth. Silene fell to her knees. It's not a weapon, she whispered. It's a choice. Calder nodded. And the last site is where the choice becomes permanent. The journey to the third site was different. No one spoke on the ship. After Threxil, everything had changed. The crew no longer looked at Calder as a prisoner. Even the guards who once kept their hands near weapons now stepped aside when he passed. Silene, still recovering, stayed close to him. She didn't try to read his thoughts anymore. She simply listened. Commander Varel sat alone in her quarters, staring at her own reflection. The brief mental link they had all shared on Threxil lingered. It was like a dream she couldn't forget. For the first time in her life, she had felt the pain of others, not as data or reports, but raw and personal. And now she wasn't sure if her thoughts were still entirely her own. The ship approached the final planet, Zareth. A lifeless stone covered in scars. It had no air, no water, no signs of civilization, but it had something deeper beneath its surface. Calder stood at the main viewport. He didn't blink as Zareth came into view. He knew this place. Even if he'd never been here in his body, the memory inside him remembered it. This is where the connection was broken, he said. Where your ancestors shattered the link between species. The final anchor lies below. Varel joined him. What happens when all 3 pieces are gathered? Calder turned to her. Then we must decide what to do with the truth. A deep drilling transport took them down through the planet's crust. No one spoke during descent. The scanners failed again, just like at the other sites. But Calder pointed the way. They entered a dark chamber buried in the stone. No doors, no lights, no machines. Just silence. In the middle stood a monolith. Smooth, black, taller than anyone. It didn't glow. It didn't move. But the moment Calder stepped closer, the room changed. Gravity bent. Time stretched. The walls shimmered as if struggling to stay in place. It's waiting, Calder said. For what? Varel asked. For agreement. Silene stepped forward beside him. You mean? It wants us to say yes? Not to it, Calder said. To each other. The monolith pulsed faintly. Then it released a wave of memory. Not just ancient images, but feelings. A whole civilization once united by shared emotion. Pain wasn't hidden. Love wasn't private. Fear was carried together. They had no need for armies because no one could bring themselves to harm another once they had felt that person's truth. But something changed. A faction broke away, afraid of losing control, afraid of connection. They built walls, cut off the link, burned the memories, buried the mind network. That faction grew into the first empires. Calder fell to one knee as the memory passed through him. Silene cried softly. Varel stood still, face pale. We're standing on the birthplace of the first silence, Calder whispered. The moment when unity was rejected. The place where species chose power over peace. The monolith pulsed again. Calder looked at Varel. It's offering the link again, he said. Not forced. Not total. Just open. Shared thought. Shared memory. An end to secrets. But only if we choose it willingly. Varel stepped forward. What if we say no? Then it will sleep again, Calder said. And next time it wakes, it may not ask. Silence fell again. Varel looked at her crew. The guards. The scientist, Selene. She saw how broken they were. How tired. How scared. She saw their humanity. Even though none of them were human. Then she placed her hand on the monolith. Let us remember, she said. The monolith lit up, and everything changed. Light filled the chamber. Not from machines or power cells, but from within. Each person present glowed softly, as if their thoughts had turned into light. The monolith pulsed once more, then grew silent. But the connection remained. Varel stepped back slowly. She could feel Calder's thoughts near her own, not hearing words, but feeling the shape of his emotions. Calm, steady, focused. She turned to look at Selene, who now stared upward, smiling faintly as tears ran down her cheeks. I can feel everyone, Selene whispered. Even you, Commander. Varel didn't respond right away. She wasn't used to this kind of silence, so full of meaning. There were no lies here, no hidden plans. Everyone was open and yet somehow still themselves. Calder looked at the others. This is what the link was meant to be. Not control, not a hive, just understanding. One of the guards blinked and spoke softly. I can feel your fear, and your peace. It's strange. I thought you were just dangerous. But you're human. Calder gave a small smile. I still am. The monolith dimmed again and the room cooled. The connection didn't vanish, but it settled into something gentle, like a quiet river beneath the surface of the mind. As they left the chamber, the crew felt different. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. A shared glance was enough. Even the ship itself seemed calmer, as if its systems were responding to something deeper than orders. But peace was not waiting for them above. The moment they reached orbit, the sensors screamed. Multiple energy signatures, the pilot shouted. It's the anomaly. The black cloud, it's here. Varel rushed to the command deck. The screen showed a massive dark wave stretching across space. Not a fleet, not a weapon, just presence. Thick, heavy, alive. It followed the signal, Calder said. The moment we accepted the link, it knew we were ready. Ready for what? Varel asked. Judgment, he answered. The cloud didn't attack. It hovered at the edge of the system, unmoving but overwhelming. The Empire had sent battlecruisers to intercept. They were gone now. Not destroyed, just erased. No debris, no signals. Like they had never existed. We can't fight it, Varel said. We're not meant to, Calder replied. It's not here to conquer. It's here to see who we've become. Selene stepped forward. Then let it see. She closed her eyes. Her mind opened again, fully this time. Not just to the ship, but to the cloud itself. A stream of light rose from her forehead like a beacon. Calder followed. Then Varel. One by one, each person on board linked their thoughts and sent them outward. The cloud responded. For the first time, it moved. Not toward the ship, but around it. It didn't crush them. It embraced them. No heat, no pain. Just weightless silence and one powerful question, not in words, but in feeling. Are you still afraid? Calder stepped forward. No, he said. The ship glowed. The stars outside shifted, and the dark cloud began to break apart. Slowly it unraveled, not vanishing, but spreading across space like mist. Each part of it scattered as if searching for more minds, more voices. It's not a test, Varel whispered. It's an invitation, Selene nodded. to join the old memory, to become part of the shared past. One of the younger crew members looked at Calder. What happens now? Calder looked out into space. Now we carry it forward. What was broken is mending, and this time, maybe we won't bury it. The ship began its journey back, not as a vessel of war, not as prisoners and officers, but as carriers of something ancient, something remembered. When the ship returned to Empire space, everything had changed, but no one was prepared for how much. Signals flooded their channels the moment they crossed into range. Dozens of starships had gone missing. Border colonies had reported strange dreams shared between strangers. And most alarming of all, telepaths across 3 systems were experiencing sudden surges of connection. Uncontrolled, unfiltered, but not hostile. The mind link had started to spread. Calder stood at the edge of the command deck watching the stars. He could feel it now. Not just the cloud, but minds awakening all over the galaxy. Some resisted, others accepted, but none could ignore it. Silene sat nearby, her eyes closed, breathing steady. Her strength had returned, but her role was no longer as a weapon. She was a bridge, a translator between old memory and the modern world. It's reaching others now, she said softly, even the ones who would have feared it before. It's touching children first. They're more open. Varel stepped into the room holding a report pad. Her face was pale. Half the council wants us silenced, she said. They think we triggered a psychic weapon. Didn't we? Calder asked calmly. She didn't answer right away. They don't want to believe it's a choice. They say it's infection, because it changes them, he replied. And power hates change. Varel dropped into her chair. They've already sent orders. When we dock, they'll try to take the ship. And us, Calder nodded. I expected that. What do we do? She asked. We let them speak, Calder said. Then we show them what it means to be heard. Silene opened her eyes. If they use force, the memory might respond. They won't need to, Calder said. Not if we reach them first. As the ship approached the central hub of the Empire's core systems, warnings lit up across every screen. Defense platforms locked on. Battleships surrounded them. We are being hailed, the pilot said. By Counselor Theron himself, Virel stood. Put it through. The screen lit up with the face of an elder alien, tall and stern. His voice filled the bridge. You are carrying a dangerous phenomenon. Power beyond control. You will stand down immediately and surrender the human and the telepath. Calder stepped into frame. We're not your enemies. You speak like a leader, Theron snapped. But you bring collapse. The link is spreading. We have reports of shared memories in species who've never spoken. That's not collapse, Calder said. That's unity. Theron's expression tightened. We have no need for such unity. We rule by structure, law, and control. And that's why your people are breaking, Calder replied. Because they remember something deeper. Something true. You can't silence it. Theron's voice grew cold. Then we will silence you. The screen went black. Alarms blared. Weapons powered up. Drones armed. Then something strange happened. The enemy ships didn't fire. Instead, one by one, their weapon systems blinked off. Not disabled, shut down by their own crews. Virel stared at the data feed. We're receiving transmissions. From inside the fleet. Officers saying they've felt it. Calder looked calm. The link reached them before Theron did. Silene stood beside him. They understand now. Even if they don't know how. More ships powered down. Crews began to speak across channels, sharing what they'd seen. What they'd felt. Memories they didn't know were shared. Feelings they never voiced. Now unburied. The cloud was gone, but its echo remained in every open mind. Varel looked around the bridge, her voice quiet. We started a fire. Calder shook his head. No, we uncovered an old light, and now we decide whether we carry it with courage or fear. Outside, the fleet waited, silent, listening. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was not ruled by commands. It was ruled by choice. The council chamber was filled with silence. No shouting, no debates, just eyes watching, waiting. Calder stood in the center, surrounded by the highest leaders of the Empire. Silene stood behind him, no longer dressed in telepath robes, but in a simple white cloak, a symbol of peace among her people. Commander Virel spoke first. We did not come here to take power, she said. We came to return memory. Counselor Theron rose from his seat, older now not just in face but in presence. He had lost control but not dignity. "You've unleashed something that cannot be contained," he said. "It spreads like breath. It will make war impossible, secrets impossible. You've changed the balance of everything." Calder nodded. "That's why it was buried." Theron's voice softened. "And if we refuse it again? If we choose silence once more? Then the link will fade," Calder replied. "It does not force. It only offers. The galaxy will forget again, but next time. There may not be anyone left to remember." Theron looked around the chamber. Many council members looked tired. Others looked moved. A few sat with tears in their eyes, silently feeling each other through the link. They had already tasted it. They couldn't forget. A young councilwoman rose. "I was taught to fear unity," she said. "I was told it would erase me. But when I felt it, I saw the face of my brother again. He died in the war, but his memory was there in someone else's heart. And I felt him smile." She sat down, shaking. Another voice spoke. "I heard my child's voice again. I saw pain I'd never noticed before, and I wanted to help, not because of duty, but because I understood." One by one, voices rose, not shouting, not demanding, just sharing. The council didn't vote. They didn't sign a treaty. They didn't declare law. They simply stood, and that was enough. The link spread that day, not as a wave of control, but a gentle current beneath every living mind. It didn't force unity. It allowed it. Among species that once warred for centuries, strangers began to speak. Soldiers laid down arms not because they were told, but because they could no longer bear to harm what they now understood. Empires didn't fall. They changed. The fleet didn't disband. It became a guardian, not of borders, but of memory. Silene became the first of her kind to be called listener rather than reader. Her job was no longer to extract truth, but to help others speak it. Birel retired from command but continued to teach. Her final message to every young officer was simple. Lead with understanding, not orders. Hear before you speak. And Calder? He left the Empire quietly. No parades, no speeches. Just a walk down an open path through the stars. But across the galaxy, children began drawing the image of a man seated calmly, surrounded by swirling light and old stone. They didn't know his name, but they remembered him. On forgotten worlds, the monoliths began to glow again, dimly, gently, reminders of a promise kept. Not to a god, not to a hero, but to each other. Because in the end, the memory wasn't a weapon, it was a chance to remember, to heal, to begin again.